Hey guys, welcome to the MTB Garage. My name is Sean, and today we're talking about cheap MTB upgrades that will make a big impact on the performance of your bike. Before we get into the video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified about future content. Now everybody loves to buy new upgrades for their mountain bike, but the cost of these upgrades can add up really quick. So I'm going to show you guys 10 upgrades for under $100 that will really make a huge improvement on your bike. So number one on the list is going to be a new shifter cable, but not just any shifter cable. This is the Shimano XTR polymer cable. It has a super slick coating on it that really helps reduce the amount of friction that happens between the shifter cable and the shifter housing. Now this will make your Dior or NX drivetrain feel like an XTR or XX1. The MSRP on these is about 24 bucks, which is kind of a lot for a shifter cable, but it is worth every penny.
Here's a quick step-by-step guide for installing the new shifter cable. I will be making a more detailed video on this process in the future, as well as lots of other basic repairs, so stay tuned for that.
Next on the list, we're moving to the brakes, specifically going with bigger rotors. Larger brake rotors are a great way to increase power and reduce brake fade. I prefer to run these Shimano RT66 rotors. The MSRP on these is about $40 per rotor, and to install these, you also need a brake adapter that's going to reposition your caliper to accommodate the larger rotors. These brake adapters run about $10 a piece, so the total for upgrading both rotors is just about $100.
Replacing rotors is not a super complex process. You just need to remove the 6 bolts that mount the old rotor, then replace the rotor and tighten down the new bolts. You will also need to replace the brake adapters. The right adapter will be specific to your frame and brake setup, and your local bike shop will be able to take a look at your bike and determine what specific adapter you'll need.
So the next few upgrades are going to be all about tires. And the first upgrade is going to be converting your tires to a tubeless setup. Now tubeless is far more reliable than inner tubes. You basically eliminate the possibility of pinch flats because there is no tube, and the sealant that you put inside the tires can help prevent against flats that you might get from thorns or other small punctures. Now in order to do this, you'll need to have tubeless ready tires as well as tubeless ready rims. Now more often than not, the tire and the rim will have some sort of indication on it that will say whether or not it's tubeless compatible. Once you've determined that your rim and your tires are tubeless compatible, you'll need to tape the rim, install a valve, and then add sealant to the tire.
Setting up a wheel for tubeless is actually a pretty easy process if you follow the right steps. The most important part is making sure that the rim surface is totally clean before installing the tape. Any old sealant or contaminants will cause the tape to not adhere properly and allow air to get through. The best way to do this is to spray down a rag with rubbing alcohol and then wipe down the rim. Once you've taped the rim all the way around, cut out a hole for the valve. After you tighten down the valve, you can install the tire. Now I already had sealant in this tire, but my rule of thumb is to add 4 ounces for 29 and 27.5 plus, and then 3 ounces for 27.5 tires. Most of the time you should be able to inflate the tire with a good floor pump, but you may need an air compressor or a CO2 canister if the bead isn't setting.
Next on the list is going to be tire inserts. Now these help really well to protect your rims from damage that might occur on the trail. If you're running too low tire pressure, or if you hit a square edge rock at just the right angle, you can pretty easily cause damage to your rim. If you're running aluminum, that can mean a dent. If you're running carbon rims, then you could potentially crack them. So tire inserts are there to help by being a barrier between square edge rocks and your rim. I prefer to run these Tuneup tire inserts. They're really lightweight at 160 grams, they're easy to install, and the MSRP on these is $50.
Now it may look like I'm struggling with this installation, but it actually is really easy compared to other tire inserts. All you need to do is put the tire insert into the tire as if you were installing an inner tube, and then pull the bead into the rim and add sealant. Here is a side-by-side comparison of this tire at 5 psi with and without the insert. You can see that the insert really helps to prevent the rim from contacting the square edge rock.
Next upgrade on the list is going to be a second set of tires. Now whether you're a cross-country guy that wants to get into some more aggressive riding, or you're a downhiller that needs a faster set of tires to commute to work on during the week, a second set of tires can be a really great way to add a level of versatility to your bike. Tires can totally change the way that your bike handles and feels, so having two completely different sets is almost like having two completely different bikes. Now I actually made a video that goes super in depth into mountain bike tires and explains everything you need to know. I'll include a link down in the description to that video if you want to learn more. Next on the list is going to be frame protection. Frame protection includes any sort of vinyl wrap or tape that will help protect your frame from getting scratched or dinged. Installing frame protection on your bike can really help with resale value and just generally keep your bike looking really clean. Today I'm going to be installing this ride wrap kit onto my bike. They make 3 different levels of frame protection kits. This is the essential, which is going to cover your down tube, top tube, chain stays, and seat stays. The MSRP on this guy is $55.
This ride wrap kit was pretty easy to install, and it came with everything you need plus instructions. The important part here is to make sure that the surface is clean before installation. Spraying the vinyl with the install solution helps you to position it properly before it adheres to the frame. From there, you just need to use the supplied towel and squeegee to work out any bubbles.
Now the next on the list is not a product at all. In fact, it's a tune-up from your local bike shop. Pretty much every bike shop is going to have a tune-up package that's under $100, and getting a tune-up can really improve the performance of your bike. Most tune-up packages under $100 are going to include things like derailleur tunes, brake adjustments, minor bearing adjustments to your hubs, bottom bracket, and headset, and a bolt check to make sure everything's tight. And on top of all that, it's a really great way to support your local bike shop. Now next on the list is going to be a new chain. Now whether you need a new chain or not, upgrading to the XDR or XX1 chains can make a huge improvement on the performance and longevity of your drivetrain. With SRAM drivetrains, I found that the X01 or XX1 chains last about 2 to 3 times as long in comparison to the GX or NX level chains. And since everything in the drivetrain wears together, that can mean more longevity for your cassette and your chainring. In addition to more longevity, the nicer chain will have better shift quality as well. SRAM X01 and XX1 chains run from $60 to $90, and a Shimano XTR chain will run about $65. Next on the list is going to be air tokens for your fork or your rear shock. Now air tokens affect the overall volume of your air spring. When your air spring has a large volume of air, it's going to have a very linear spring rate. And when it has a small volume of air, it can have a very progressive spring rate. A progressive spring rate can be beneficial in a couple of different ways. The first one is to help out with bottom out resistance. If you're a bigger rider or somebody that rides hard and does big jumps and drops, then having bottom out resistance can be really helpful. The other way that a progressive spring rate can be beneficial is if you want to have a supple top end. This can be achieved by adding air tokens, thus reducing the amount of air volume. Since you have more bottom out resistance, you can actually run lower pressure, which makes the top end softer but gives you the same amount of stiffness at the end of the travel. Depending on what fork or shock you have, you can usually pick up some air tokens for a couple bucks from your local bike shop.
My RockShox Pike could be a little bit more progressive, so I'm going to add 1 air volume token. The air volume tokens will be located on the left side of the fork, and make sure to release all the air before removing the air cap. Once the air cap is off, just thread on your desired number of tokens and then reinstall it.
So the final cheap upgrade that's going to make a big impact on the performance of your bike is going to be the proper saddle. Now when it comes to saddles, everyone's going to need something a little bit different. The right saddle for you is going to be dependent on the width of your sit bones. More often than not, bikes come stocked with really narrow saddles, such as this Giant. This one's only about 130 millimeters wide, which is really too narrow for most people. I'm currently running the Bontrager Evoque saddle. Unfortunately, it's been discontinued, but this thing is 150 millimeters wide, and it fits my sit bone width perfectly. I'm going to walk you guys through an easy way of measuring your sit bones so you can determine what the right saddle width is going to be for you.
To do this, you will need a rectangular piece of corrugated cardboard and a ruler. Place the cardboard on a chair with a flat and hard surface, then sit down on the cardboard and pull up on the sides of the chair. This will cause your sit bones to make a depression into the cardboard, and from there you will need to measure the distance between the two from center to center. Once you have your measurement, add 25 millimeters to that number, and that is the proper width saddle that you need.
So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified about future videos. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite cheap MTB upgrade is, and hey, let's ride again next week.